The Ghost of Silverlode, Part F. What makes you say a silly thing like that? Mama asked. Every boy is born with a guardian angel on his left shoulder, Papa said, and that guardian angel whispers into the boy's ear every time that boy does something wrong, or even thinks about doing something wrong. That is why I say that T.D. is stone deaf in his left ear. He hasn't heard one word his guardian angel whispered in his ear since the day he was born. Papa could exaggerate at times. I can't help it, Tom said, that I was born with a great brain that has to know everything. I just had to find out if there was such a thing as a real ghost. Then why, in the name of Jupiter, didn't you just ask me? Papa demanded. I did ask you a long time ago, Tom said, and you led me to believe there was a ghost of Silverlode. I think he has you there, my dear, Mama said with that sort of half-smile on her face she always got when teasing Papa. That is right, Papa cried as if being persecuted. Put all the blame on me. If we had woke up tomorrow morning and found our 2 sons missing and their bodies had never been found like the Knutson and Bartell boys, you would be the first to blame me for not telling them there was a ghost of Silverlode to scare them away from the place. Tom's great brain must have been working like 60 to try and get us out of being punished. If you told me the truth, he said, as if everything was Papa's fault, I'd have kept the secret from the other kids. It is very late, Mama said, putting an end to the argument. You boys go to bed. We will discuss it further in the morning. Papa stared at Tom as if saying a prayer. And please stay in bed until morning, he pleaded. The next morning, Papa kept us in suspense until we had finished eating breakfast and he was having a second cup of coffee. Your mother and I have talked things over, he said. Then he looked straight at Tom. You and SD will be leaving for the academy in Salt Lake City in 2 weeks. We all want to be as close as a family should be during that time. There will be no punishment. Then Papa looked at Tom with an appealing look in his eyes, like a hungry dog begging for a bone. Do you think it's possible, T.D., for you and your great brain to give your mother and me the rest of this town a breathing spell for just 2 weeks? I think so, Tom said. Papa lost his temper and slammed his fist down so hard on the table it shook the dishes on it. I want you to do more than just think about it, he said. All right, Papa, I promise, Tom said. Tom kept his word to Uncle Mark and Papa. He told such a hair-raising tale about the ghost of Silverlode that you couldn't have got any kid in town to pass that sign on the road to Silverlode for all the gumdrops in the ZCMI store. He also kept his word to Papa by giving his great brain a rest and doing everything he could to please Papa, Mama, and Aunt Bertha. And, I guess because his great brain was resting and not working in its usual style, he got very generous with me. He told me the day before he was to leave for Salt Lake City with Swin that he would let me use his bike for just 10 cents a week. You can afford it, J.D., he said as we sat on our back porch making the deal. I've talked to Papa, and he admits that it is only fair to raise your allowance to 20 cents a week, because you will be doing all the chores. It was the best deal I'd made with Tom, and it gave me an idea. I wasn't the smartest fellow around, but I'd been swindled so many times by the great brain that I knew all the angles. There was one advantage of being the victim of a swindler. It taught a fellow how to make other kids the victims. I knew plenty of kids in town who didn't own a bike who would gladly pay me 5 cents a day to use Tom's bicycle. And why should a smart kid like me, who knew all the angles, do my own chores? The Jensen family were very poor. I could get Frank or Alan to do all my chores for 10 cents a week, which would leave me a neat profit of a dime a week. It would be me and not Tom sitting on the corral fence watching somebody else do the chores. And look at all the things I'd learned from Tom about trading and swapping things. Enough of my brother's great brain had rubbed off on me. There wasn't anything any kid in town had that I couldn't get. The thought didn't bother my conscience a bit. Somebody had to take my brother's place in Aidenville, and it might as well be me. There wasn't a doubt in my mind that I'd soon be the richest kid in town.